Hey everybody, this is Cody922 here. Welcome to Cody Talks Fanfiction, episode number 21. It's back and it's not dead. The show's alive. That's right, I'm back with a new episode and I'm going to be announcing two formatting changes. Really, one of them isn't a major formatting change, but gosh, it has been a while since I've been in this world. How you doing, you beautiful bastard, you? So, format change number one. You know what the name of this show is. Cody Talks Fanfiction. You know what the name of the show isn't? Cody Reviews Fanfiction. I think it's time that I take a little bit more of an advantage over the name of the show, because finding new fanfiction, I mean, there are tons of people who are more qualified to make this show than I am, purely off the basis of they actually read more fanfiction than I do. One of my friends, Scott McKilveen, who makes the wonderful intro of this show, and I'm going to plug him again, reads a lot more fanfiction than I do. Probably more qualified to run this show just from that standpoint. I'm not saying as a reviewer, though I do know some people that the only way that I am more qualified than them to make this show is that I have both the time and energy to make this show. You know, all's well that ends okay. But I will be exercising the fact that this is called Cody Talks Fanfiction, because there's some things that I want to talk about. Actually, the original plan for episode number 21 was going to be me commenting on actually one of the funny things. And tune in for Cody Talks tomorrow, when I will be covering Ruby, the show that I so profusely talk about really on this show, because this show is based around Ruby fanfiction. But the original basis for this was for people to lay off of Neptune, and for people to stop putting Jean in a certain way. Of course, Ruby decided that, hey, you know what? We're going to make this guy's life harder. We're going to completely invalidate the claims that he has made at the very next episode by making fanfiction Jean canon Jean and giving the reasons that people are complaining about Neptune validity. Thanks a lot for having my back, RT. But nonetheless, episode number 21 is back, and this episode, I'm sure that somewhere out there, there's a lot of you excited for this. Welcome to the Unholy Trinity episode. That's right, the 3 trash ships of Ruby. Each of them with a story to focal point them, but it's still the Unholy Trinity episode. I'm mostly going to be talking about the fact that these are trash ships, and on what levels do they work, and on what levels do they work in such a way that only sadistic assholes would actually enjoy them. So, let's start this off just by officially saying what, for those of you who aren't into trash shipping, first of all, welcome to the dumpster. And second of all, what is the Unholy Trinity? Well, the Unholy Trinity, the fucking name makes me laugh. The Unholy Trinity is what I call the 3 trash ships, because I think that there are 3 main ones. There is, to cover, Enabler, which is Yang and Ruby. There is Cinder Ruby. Cinder and Ruby, I mean, I know Falling Petals is the actual ship name for it, but I like Cinder Ruby more. And newest to the club is Baked Alaska or Banana Split. Either way, it's 2 fantastic names, which is Yang and Neo. So, these are the trash ships. So the stories that I will be covering kind of in association with these ships is going to be as follows. It is going to be they're all one-shots, by the way, so it's not really going to be an official review. Graduation, Ignis Internum, and Neo's Change of Heart. So with that, let's get started to the godmother of trash ships. Let's start with Enabler. And the story that I have for that is Graduation Redux, because, by the way, I don't know how many people realize how fucking hard it actually is to find these trash ship stories when you're not looking for them, or when you're looking for them. When you're not looking for them, they're everywhere, but when you are, it got a little bit harder for me to find an Enabler story. So, but this is, sorry, I don't have the description on the screen because I'm not professional. All right, Graduation Redux, and this is by Zextrin, who I have covered before in an author spotlight. Smutty alternate ending to Graduation because of reasons. Ruby ran off the night before graduating to see her mother's grave. Yang followed in order to make sure she came back in time for the ceremony. Let's just assume in this alternate universe they're already in a steady relationship. Like maybe they were promised to each other as kids. Okay, I don't know. I just wanted to write Yang Ruby. Don't look at me. Thank you very much for those words, Chrissy. And those were fun to read. I would have included more of a yelling thing, but my dogs would have flipped the fuck out. So, Graduation was actually one of these stories that I did read for the author spotlight for Chrissy. I feel like I can call you Chrissy because we're mutuals on Tumblr. It makes me happy. That'll be cut. So, Graduation, it's pretty straightforward. It's the day before graduation, and Ruby runs off to visit her mother's grave because of, you know, it's her mother and stuff. And, you know, Yang shows up to bring Ruby back to Beacon. And in the original, she just shows up, have a lovely sister chat, and then they go their separate ways. Well, actually, no. Then Yang brings Ruby back to Beacon and scratch that. They don't go their separate ways. Yang takes Ruby with her. In this version, they fuck before doing it. I don't know what other way to phrase it. I don't think that there's a polite way to phrase it. So yeah, they do the do. There we go. That's a polite way to phrase it. They do the do. They go full lesbo. I don't know. This is why I should not be allowed to make this show. Yeah. So really about this ship in general. The story's really good. It's amazing the contrast when you read well-written smut versus really poorly written smut. The fact that when it's well-written, it actually makes an impact. And so I would, if you're an Enabler, if you're not an Enabler fan, if this stuff weirds you out, I wouldn't recommend the story, obviously. But if you're like neutral towards Enabler and you're just looking for a decently written story, I'd absolutely go to this one. I think it's a little bit more than decently written, but I enjoyed it. I had to pretend that Yang and Ruby were different characters because I'm one of those people. Listen, to read this story, to make this episode, I had to go back on a lot of things. I've openly stated I will have nothing to do with Enabler. There you go. You have your own episode. Are you happy now? Enabler God, aka Chrissy, are you happy now? But I mean, it was a good story, and the reason this ship is weird to me because it works on every standpoint, minus the fact that they're sisters. If you literally take out that equation, it's somebody who's caring with somebody who can be seen as much younger and who needs kind of the care. And in an actual relationship, you know, that would work out. That would work out great. And I think that it does work. I think that, you know, apart from that whole biological thing, we have the same dad. You know, it's even better. It's better for these kinds of people. And I actually remember when the news came out that Yang and Ruby were only half sisters, it was Kuribayashi, who I previously had on the show, is the writer of an incredibly well done story, The White Rose of Vermilion, which is my second favorite story. But you know, he just put out on Tumblr, Enabler fans rejoice, because now they're even less related, Enabler fans, and they have moral grounds to stand on. But this ship works on a lot of levels, and I think I would enjoy it, but I'm weirded out by it for whatever reason. I stay away from it for the most part, minus this one exception, because I have a show to make. But Enabler, in the hands of somebody like Chrissy, especially, she knows what to do with this ship. The problem with Enabler is you have to know what to do with the ship. You can honestly not treat it as though they are full sisters. You just can't, because then it gets weird. That's when it gets weird and gay. You just want to make it gay and not weird. And well, you need to know how to deal with it. And so with somebody like Chrissy, you know, she's the reason it's called Enabler. She knows what to do with it. But there are probably other authors out there, but really I don't read Enabler. The only person I know right now is Chrissy. Absolutely recommend to go read Graduation Redux. Or Redo. I don't know how to pronounce it. I say Redux because I'm white. The next ship that I'll be talking about is going to be Cinder Ruby. Oh yes, you are a very, very close second. Actually, some people would probably argue that you are ahead, but you're very, very high up there on the list of trashiest ship. Cinder Ruby, and the story that I'll be using for this one is going to be Ignis Internum by rwby-rose. By the way, I am so sorry to the author of Neo's Change of Heart for including rwby-rose on Tumblr, a parabola beam, I believe? Yeah, parabola beam on fanfiction.net. I am so sorry to the person that wrote Neo's Change of Heart, because I would never in a million years want to be mentioned in an episode with these people, with Chrissy, and you know what, I appeared on a podcast with you, and Emmy, who is rwby-rose. I don't really know either of them that well, but hot damn, those are two pretty well-known writers that are incredibly prolific. In fact, Emmy was one of the original queens of Ruby fanfiction. So, but I did mention you in the show with them, so you're welcome. But the description for Ignis Internum, let me just get onto dry land. Oh, this is a Hunchback of Notre Dame AU, by the way. And this is the author's note. I always read the author's note full and through and through. And he indulged me by drawing my Cinder Ruby Hunchback of Notre Dame AU, and I'd been planning to write this, and wow, I got carried away. I don't even know what to say anymore. I can't believe myself. I am actually the worst. But honestly, actually, this is one of the best things I've ever written. Maybe two. Please enjoy. These author notes have been wonderful to read today. Thank you guys so much for that. For not giving me dry descriptions to read that. And with I'm bad at descriptions. That's my favorite. Hunchback of Notre Dame AU was the way that this sounds, especially to me, it really does sound as though it was originally. I'm gonna keep calling you Emmy, even though it's weird to me. But it was her original AU, and it's really well done actually, and I really like this AU a lot. And it's basically if I remember correctly, it's been a little bit since I've read this, so do forgive me. I believe Ruby is the Hunchback of Notre Dame, and Cinder is the princess. If I remember correctly, don't kill me, Emmy. I really like your work. If I remember correctly, that is the AU. Yeah, that's the AU. All right, I'm gonna stick with that. And this one shot, I've read a decent amount by Emmy, and God, that sounds weird. I've read a decent amount by her. She is such a good writer. The only actually other side was one of the first stories that I ever read, and you know, it's one of the oldest Ruby stories out there, one of the older Ruby fics out there, and it's so good, so good. It takes a couple times reading it to understand it, I think, fully, but she's good, and she's gotten a lot better. Scary to think about. And this story, I'd actually agree with her. I think it's one of the better things that she has written. It's so, once again, it's so good. Cinder Ruby is a very, very trash ship. And once again, I'm going to somebody who really, I believe, is at, well, not I believe, who is really at the heart of this, who is kind of the heart and soul of, I'm really, really sorry, this sounds terrible, of Cinder Ruby. She's the writer that really kind of makes it stand out. I believe Kino is probably the artist. Kinzaibatsu91 on Tumblr is like the artist that makes it stand out the most. And it is pretty incredible. This ship really works on all the levels that are trashy. This ship works on the level of you can make it a more manipulative relationship. It's trash galore. But it's also incredibly fun to write, and it's incredibly fun to plot. This is one of my favorite ships, actually. And in the hands of Emmy, it's incredible. rwby-rose is the best writer for Cinder Ruby. Absolutely read. She has a lot of one-shot travel. I happen to select this one. Read all of her stuff on it. And this particular story works on a lot of levels. I love this AU idea because it's so applicable to Cinder Ruby on a lot of levels. Or you can make it so applicable to Cinder Ruby, and actually on levels that make it less trashy somehow, some way. And I personally feel like this is, this is a great one-shot. This is one of the better one-shots that I've read, I think, overall. Highly recommend this particular story, but this ship, it works on the level that is manipulative. You cannot write this story in a way that's happy-go-lucky, carefree. You cannot write the story without the relationship being somewhat manipulated by Cinder Fall, because it has to be done that way. And if done correctly, it's wonderful. You can have it be like a Stockholm Syndrome thing. You can have it be like a I am enticing you sort of a thing. So I love it. I love it a lot. Cinder Ruby's great, honestly. There's a lot of people that won't ship it because of the nature of it, and I'm fine with that, but I think Cinder Ruby's great. So for this ship, do recommend, but, you know, tread lightly. Tread lightly around this ship, because it's also very, very easy to bring it into a realm that's too far gone, that romanticizes things too much, and I think that's the danger with this ship. That's the real danger of this ship. But what I've read has been good, and I love Cinder Ruby a lot. I've actually written 2 things for Cinder Ruby, so I'm there in the dumpster. Oh, I probably should have said this earlier, but I'm not grading these stories because I don't grade one-shots because they're really hard to grade fairly. But the next story that I wanted to, I really love this ship a lot, and both of these stories, I will list one of the fanfiction link for, Graduation Redux, but it's not actually, but where I read it was on Tumblr. So for everybody to know, if I read a story and it appears on Cody Talks Fanfiction and I read it on Tumblr, I will personally reblog it on my Tumblr account, Cody922, under the tag of Cody Talks Fanfiction. So the link to that tag will be in the description below. I believe there's actually something in there. Yeah, there's actually something in there that's a prelude to a potential future episode. So, you know, you could get some spoilers into it if you want to browse that. But yeah, Cody Talks Fanfiction. That's the tag where you can read all of this stuff. Good tag. The next thing, and the final story that I will be discussing here, is going to be Neo's Change of Heart by Moonstruck Girl 15. Team Crime captures Yang, and Neo has an ethical dilemma about it. Well, what qualifies as an ethical dilemma for her anyways. Contains freezer burn, banana split, aka baked Alaska, aka Yang Neo, and hints of freezer burn ice cream, Yang Weiss Neo. So this idea was, this concept was originally stemmed from, I believe anyways, from somebody sending an ask to Scared to Fox on Tumblr. And Scared to Fox is an artist and really into anything to do with Yang and Weiss, but recently picked up Baked Alaska as well as a ship that they liked. So somebody sent in this idea to them, and they were like, somebody please write it, and then this story existed. I'm assuming as a direct response to that. I'm actually not that sure because there's no mention of that. I don't know if this is the person that asked it, or if this is somebody else deciding to write this. And, but either way, it's an enjoyable story. I really love the concept of it a lot, of like Neo, where she shows up at Team Ruby's dorm and is like, and I believe it was, should we trust you? Why would you want to help? And it's like, I will not, let me get the exact quote. No, I'm not going to spoil it. But this is on, Scared to Fox's, the original ask is somewhere on Scared to Fox's Tumblr. I did not sort through that, so it's not under the Cody Talks Fanfiction tag, because I suck. But this ship, from a story standpoint, this is the weaker of the 3 stories, but I mean, look at the other 2 stories. But it's weaker from the standpoint of it literally felt as though it was a few 100-word extension on that ask. It didn't feel as satisfying to read as actually the ask did. The ask felt more satisfying to read because I knew the amount of characters I got, but it felt as though it was that ask with a little bit of embellishment. Little bit. So that ask turned into this story, and the story's fun. The story's actually a lot of fun. And but the actual ship in and of itself. So this ship, I don't know why. I don't know why people ship it. I don't know why I ship it. How did I end up here? Who am I? Basically, this ship, let me summarize this ship, actually. Yang and Neo, they fight. And Neo kicks the shit out of Yang. And in the Ruby fandom translated that into, oh, they're gonna fuck. I don't know. I don't know how we do it, but we do it because we are an incredibly talented group of sick assholes. But this ship's fun, and I like this ship a lot. I love the idea of Neo she is built upon deflection. upon really a character that deflects things, and Yang is built upon hitting things really, really hard. And I think that their personalities might mirror that. And if they do, then this ship is beautiful, and it makes a lot of sense. I sincerely hope it, like, that's what happens with, oh, there's another fucking thing. I sincerely do hope that that's how things play out for this ship, because I want to see it happen that way, because I'm selfish. If their personalities mirror, you know, Neo being a very sassy person, but also being kind of built upon deflection, and Yang, you know, we know her personality, really based around, she's a very head-first character, and knowing those two things alone is kind of a more like dodgy, this more of a sassy kind of a person, would work really well when paired with Yang. We don't know much about Neo yet. That's the tricky thing. Actually, we don't even know what she sounds like yet. I really love the fact that mute Neo is what's being passed around here, but let's be honest. Neo, I think it was actually recorded that Monty has said that he had a really cool voice actor for Neo. Of course, he could be trolling us harder than when he trolled us when asked what his favorite weapon from Volume 2 was, and he said it was Velvet's, son of a bitch. That's a spoiler, but whatever. I don't think so. I think that in this case, he actually does have somebody lined up. My guess right now remains either Meg or Sheena. I kind of hope for Meg, but I'd be okay with Sheena too. So, you know, when Neo talks, we'll learn a little bit more about her. I'm excited to learn more about her next volume. She's a character that I fell in love with when I saw her, and I don't know why, but I really felt as like I want to know more about this particular character, and this character interests me more than every other character does, and I'm not sure why, but it just played out that way. So this ship works on the headcanons that we've been given. We will see if it actually winds up working in canon, and if it doesn't, then we're not going to care. We're going to ship it anyways, because that's what we do. That's what we do. That's why we here. Shipping should never be based solely off of what happens in canon. Never, because that's a terrible idea. But with that, that's going to conclude the Unholy Trinity episode. And I did say that there was another format change that I probably should announce now. So from here on out, obviously things like this, they can fly. That, you know, they can fly if I decide that I want to do things that way. And if I decide that I don't, then it's not going to happen. You know, not a big deal. Not a big riddle to figure out. But what is also going to happen? In the past, I set interview episodes to a schedule of every 5 episodes falling on the 4th. So that would mean falling on 4. So that would mean 4, 9, 14, 19. You know, you get the idea. And if I were to do an interview episode outside of that, that would count as a half episode. Well, there's going to be a format change. There will be an interview episode every 5 episodes. But that just means within 5 episodes of the prior one. So last one that happened was episode number 19. I believe I had on Questmon for that one. So that means by episode 24, I have to have another interview done, but it will count as a whole episode. So if, let's say I am to do one for episode number 23, let's just say, that would mean that by episode number 28, I'd have to have another interview done. And, you know, consequently, that would mean that by episode number 23, but let's say I then, you know, turn around and do one episode number 30, then that would mean by 35. So, et cetera, that's all it means. And it means that I will be churning out interviews, hopefully at a higher rate. Also, I will no longer have to have covered the artists, or the writers writing prior to that episode prior to the interview episode. This change was actually made specifically with one person in mind, because after reading their work recently, I kind of looked at it and thought, how the fuck? I want to cover their stories. How the fuck am I going to criticize it? I've had some really, really suspect criticism. Sorry, Chrissy. Sorry, Hannah. But I can't do it this time. I just can't do it this time. So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out in the future. As of right now, episode number 22, I'm going to try for an interview. Might not be able to do it, but I'm going to try. That is going to conclude, however, this week's episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction. I cannot promise higher frequency of these being released, but Cody Talks Fanfiction, expect different things from me in the future. But tomorrow, what you can expect is Cody Talks Ruby Volume 2. If you would please take a moment to check that out tomorrow, because I have some things to say, and it's a little bit more focused on the constructive side of things than this episode of Cody Talks Fanfiction was. But if you don't tune in tomorrow, then I will see all of you the next time. Bye!